And I believe the transportation vehicle for your finances to get you from zero to hero in the real estate market during the next downturn is going to be precious metals. I believe that God's money is going to outshine Satan's money, quite frankly. And I believe that you're going to see an uptick in that because of a currency transition that's happening from paper fiat to digital fiat, essentially.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and this is the Miles Franklin Weekly Special for December 27th, 2022 through January 3rd, 2023 while supplies last. This week we feature 2022 silver kangaroos at just $4.25 over spot. Made by the famed Perth Mint, these 2022 silver kangaroos are, along with silver maples, one of the only silver sovereign coins in the world minted at 4 nines fine purity. On one side, they bear the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, while on the other, they feature the eponymous kangaroo. They come $25 to a tube and just $250 to a box, and at only $4.25 over spot, they're the most affordable box around. And finally, they are IRA eligible. And if you'd like to learn more about a precious metals IRA, call us, and we'll be happy to help you in that process. Our number for all orders is 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty and Finance. And back with us today is our good friend, the Economic Ninja. Economic Ninja, thank you so much for joining us today, January 2nd here, the new year.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited for this new year, to be honest with you. Just as I was driving up and racing to get to the interview, I was literally feeling this feeling of exuberance inside. And I know it sounds funny, but it's this gut feeling about what's coming this next year. Even though there's some bad stuff, there's also going to be a lot of good things.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a crazy 3 years, really since the beginning of 2020 with the pandemic, and just the economy and the stock market has been going crazy up and down. What are what are you most excited for and looking forward to, even in the midst of crisis here in 2023? What are you most looking forward to in this coming year?
So the last 2 years, if it's taught us anything, it's who we should, or 3 years, it's who we should be hanging out with. Who should we be associating ourselves with? To say that there's been a divide among human beings around the world is an understatement. And a divide of understanding and knowledge, a divide of wisdom, and a divide of desire or lack thereof. People have literally separated themselves into two camps, no matter which way you want to put it, politically, economically, socially, it doesn't matter. What I'm excited about is that there are so many people that have woken up. In the last 3 years, really bad things have happened. Certain civil liberties have been taken, certain finances have been robbed, some finances have been gained, right? We've seen explosions in precious metals, we've seen explosions in crypto, we've also seen downturns in both. Same thing with the stock market. But so much knowledge was gained from all of this. And there were people that I talk to on a daily basis that say things like, I never knew how important it was to own an ounce of silver, or I didn't even know what gold's role was in the economy or what its history was throughout the ages. There's so many people now that understand what a real estate cycle is and that it is repeatable. And to me, going into 2023, because I believe there's going to be a much harder things coming because, call it the powers that be, or just the way, economics flows through human emotion. There are going to be hard times coming for those that aren't understanding what's coming on with that digital currency, and there are banks around the world that want to get us into that digital currency. And the only way to get us there is through fear, right? But with that being said, there's so many more people now that have an understanding of what's coming, what's going on, and what's coming in the future, and they're getting prepared for it. So to be honest with you, I get super pumped about that.
I know your whole channel is really about seeing the positive aspects of a crisis. So what kind of opportunities, if you could expand on that, do you see coming in this next year?
Yeah, I just filmed a video about real estate and a company called Open Door. And somebody came out, one of my subscribers came out and says, look, I know it. I get it. The real estate's going to crash and it's crashing. But the problem is I'm still seeing these crazy companies like Open Door buy these homes for insane amounts. But he gave an example. Last month, Open Door bought a house down the street from him for $850,000. They now have it listed for $710,000. The facts are there are opportunities all around us. And even though this isn't, in my opinion, time to buy real estate, that time is coming. And to say that this is going to be a bigger opportunity in real estate than what we saw in between 2008 and 2010 is an understatement. But a lot of people go, how do I get there? And I believe the transportation vehicle for your finances to get you from zero to hero in the real estate market during the next downturn is going to be precious metals. I believe that God's money is going to outshine Satan's money, quite frankly. And I believe that you're going to see an uptick in that because of a currency transition that's happening from paper fiat to digital fiat, essentially.
It is very interesting because I remember last time we had you on, you were talking about how you really have anticipated crises in the past and taken advantage of them, but the coming crisis will kind of make those others pale in comparison because this crisis is a currency crisis. So it's going to be bigger than any of the other. Can you expand on kind of the crisis we're heading into and why a currency crisis is different than the other ones in the past?
Yeah. So to understand where we are right now, we have to understand where we came from. Let's talk about the two cycles before this. The first bubble was the stock bubble, the .com bubble that happened in the late 90s, early 2000s. When I mean 2000s, I mean literally the year 2000 and early 2001. .com stocks led the pack, but it also sucked in the Dow Jones average with it and literally took stock valuations to crazy heights, 14,000 on the Dow, to give you an idea. But then that bubble popped and the NASDAQ fell massively, but the Dow Jones fell 50%, right? That was the point when I moved into the next bubble. And I moved into real estate because the Federal Reserve had to act. They had to stimulate the economy, juice it, if you will. And juicing it is lowering rates. That's their low-hanging fruit. It's one of the only things the Federal Reserve can do is manipulate interest rates and then deal with swap lines and hide where money is transferred. So when they lowered rates, I dove into that next cycle because I saw the human emotion of greed and jealousy get involved. And I go, people are going to want to outdo their neighbor. So they're going to want to buy a bigger house, bigger cars, things like that. Well, that brought us to that next big wave, but that was a real estate wave. Now, when that broke, that brought us into this big one, and that is a currency wave. Now, this is a wave that we haven't seen in literally 100 years. The last time we saw this currency wave is essentially when gold was demonetized. And just for opinion, I do not believe that we're going to see, or not demonetized, but actually, illegal to own under that executive order. I do not believe we're going to see that this time because what's happening is we're transitioning from paper fiat into fiat digital. And for them to have a smooth transfer, they need to be able to show that it's free, it's freedom. You're going to be able to buy whatever you want with it. It's going to be great. You can buy gold if you want. You can buy digital currency. They're not going to, like Bitcoin, they're not going to advertise that, but they're not going to limit it, right? Because they know the facts. 95% of the people are not going to take that new digital currency that they hand you during a crisis, very similar to what happened in 2020 or what happened during the QE time in 2008, where they're giving out money to people that they deemed needed it. They're not going to limit you on what you can buy because they know 95% of the people are just going to go buy things they shouldn't buy. More expensive cars, Gucci handbags, and things like that, right? Hopefully some of them, the subscribers of my channel, will be paying off debt if they have any or taking it and buying God's money. But that's where I think this is the biggest bubble there is. And the reason why is because a currency crash involves all asset classes because it is what is used to buy any of the asset classes.
That is very interesting that you're saying that the currency crisis involves all asset classes. And that's what I've been hearing for a while, that this bubble that we're currently in is kind of a bubble of everything. We're seeing real estate topping out. We're seeing the stock market topping out. We're seeing bonds possibly topping out. So I guess, can you expand on that? Because it seems like this isn't something that really anybody alive today has seen before.
You're right. And this is what's really, truly exciting about this is because the Federal Reserve, the reason why everything is topping out is because the Federal Reserve is raising rates, right? But really, if you think about it, it's not just the Fed raising rates. That's how they started. But now what's really taking over is the 10-year bonds seeing some pressure to the upside because countries like Japan are having to sell some of their treasuries because they are forced to take that money and prop up their own currency. So if you think about it, as more countries, like what's going on in Switzerland right now, they have an emergency swap line that was set up with the Fed because they're having issues with one of their main banks, right? So as more and more countries have problem, and China came out right after Japan, I knew they jumped on that one and said, hey, we're having problems too. We may have to sell some treasuries. It's because they want to sell treasuries. They know the outcome. If countries start selling their US treasuries, right? And if you think about it, every day that goes by, countries need US bonds, US treasuries, T-bills, whatever, less and less because they're starting to do business in their own currency. We have lost the US dollar standard. That was obvious when Saudi Arabia said, hey, we're out. And not only are we out, we're signing an agreement with China that's not only good for 50 years, but beyond that. And I didn't see any bombs flying over in Saudi Arabia the next week like we did with countries like Iran, or not Iran, but Iraq and Libya, right? We've seen that happen before when leaders challenge dollar supremacy in trade. We don't see that anymore. So as countries start figuring this out and they go, well, wait a minute, Saudi Arabia is still there the next week. Well, maybe we'll do it too, because we don't like inflation getting put on our shoulders as the Federal Reserve in the US just exports its inflation. So as they start to sell their savings of treasury bonds, what happens is who's left to buy them? Well, mainly it's the Federal Reserve or anyone in the US. And that's going to put upward pressure on the 10-year bond. And that's what happened when Japan announced that. We saw that 10-year bond really start to move. And I think you're going to see the Federal Reserve trying to tamp these little fires out by, doing swap lines between the two currencies to try and hide it. But the fact of the matter is they're only going to be able to put out so many fires. They could fix the Japan fire. I don't know if they could fix the Chinese fire because China's got a lot of bonds. Russia also has them. As they start to sell them and that increases, that's going to cause interest rates to move even more, which makes credit card borrowing more expensive, auto loans more expensive. And the biggest wealth effect is homes. And it's going to cause that 10-year bond to really go out of control. So the question is, it's not if, it's when. And then the other question is, how much bond purchases can the Federal Reserve take on its shoulders?
I think that is a key question there and may be the determining factor of why we're going to see inflation versus deflation, because it would seem like if interest rates are going to be rising and a lot of bonds are going to be sold, then that would lead to that would be a deflationary environment. What is your perspective on that? Because I think there is that whole debate about, are we going to be seeing deflation and inflation? And it might be a bit of both, actually, because if we're seeing stocks fall and real estate fall, that is deflationary, at least in those sectors.
You are 100% correct. People do not understand the fact that inflation and deflation happen at the exact same time. I actually came out with a video that started in the spring and I said deflation has begun. And boy, did I catch some crap for that. Because people in their minds expect things like one day the light switch goes on and goes, oh, we have inflation. And then the next, whenever it happens, the light switch goes off and goes, oh, it's time for deflation. But they don't understand. And I'll go back to 2008 and explain. In 2006 is when I was selling my homes. The reason why I was liquidating all my homes, I didn't have a lot back then, I had 14, but that was a lot for my social circle. That was the most. That was the size of my social circle, right? I was liquidating them super fast because days on market were extending. And so I knew that as sales started to wane and as inventory, more homes hit the market, it was going to become more and more difficult for me to sell. And then there's that period of time, and this happens in the real estate market, stock market, all kinds of different markets. When all of a sudden the sales are getting so long, it's taking so long to sell, somebody decides to lower the price. There we go. That's demand destruction right there, right? Because there's no longer any demand for the home. So you go ahead and lower the price. Well, then your neighbor goes, well, wait a minute, he lowered his price and we're the same price. I want to sell mine before him. So I've got to lower my price. I got to lower a little bit more. And then that cascading effect, that sell-off is what creates deflation. Well, the facts are deflation and inflation happen at the exact same time as we're moving from an inflationary period to a deflationary period where everything's deflating at once. It's not a light switch. So you are 100% correct when you say that you are going to see bouts of both, because that is where we are in the cycle. I believe that we are going to see food and energy continue to inflate this year, and other items like travel and leisure, subscription services, which are already in deflation. And then it's going to move into other things like non-durable goods, consumer consumables, things like the Gucci handbags, things like that. Things that people don't need, they're going to start to fall. And then that's going to cause an even bigger wave, because as those companies start to lay people off, it's going to increase the unemployment rate. And that's when the Federal Reserve is going to be excited. The Federal Reserve wants unemployment, and then they're going to be able to do that about face. But until then, they have to literally break the markets. And the sad thing is, well, it's not sad for you and me, the Federal Reserve does not want to be blamed. But I have a feeling because of this increase in knowledge that we talked about in the last year, the last couple of years, more than less people are going to understand that the Federal Reserve, the private central bank, is to blame for this.
When it comes to inflation and deflation happening at the same time, that really gets to the opportunities then in this crisis that we're seeing. Because if you invest in what is going up and then switch to what it has fallen, right? So you invest first in those inflationary assets and then take advantage of what has been in deflation, then you can just grow your wealth exponentially. Is that kind of what you're talking about when you're talking about first investing in precious metals and then transitioning to maybe stocks or real estate?
Yes, 100%. See, the truth is you should never be in an investment forever. Now, over the long term, does gold go up against the fiat currency? Absolutely, because we all know that the fiat currency completely gets dwindled down over time through money printing, through the increase of more money, right? So yeah, over the long term. But you could also say the same thing for real estate. Real estate over the long term always goes up. Now, sure, there's these little blips that could almost take you out and cause bankruptcy on the way up. But the reason why real estate goes up over the long term is because of the destruction in the purchasing power of any given fiat currency around the world. But if you understood cycles and you understood that gold and silver should be going up exponentially versus other commodities, like in this case, real estate, because real estate should be on the downturn as interest rates get higher and the cost of living gets more expensive. So people can't afford that next more expensive house, right? So as that falls, the ratio of what you can buy increases dramatically. And you're absolutely right. That is exactly what I'm talking about.
Now, it's not just, I guess, economically or financially that we want to prepare as well. You've recently stated on your channel kind of other ways that, as you're mentioning, with this whole COVID crisis and all the freedoms that have been taken away from us, people are waking up and saying that something is wrong going on. You also mentioned on your channel recently about really the metaverse and the World Economic Forum, kind of talking more about that and how it's going to transform our life and everything. And I guess what are some of the things that people need to watch out for and say no to? Because a lot of these things are not just, I guess, taking away some of our liberty, but they're actually just wrong.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I did that video on the metaverse. I said it's straight up demonic. One of the biggest reasons I think people should be steer clear from video games and things, especially like AI and these goggles that people are putting on is first off, it's a thief of your time. And there is nothing worse than having time stolen from you because you cannot get that back. I'll give an example. I was out golfing with a buddy one day. I was pretty stressed out, a lot going on in life. And my buddies were calling me like, hey, you got to get, come blow off some steam. And so we're out hitting the balls and golfing. And he goes, isn't this great? And I go, what do you mean? Because I had a lot going on. I've got things going. I mean, we're absolutely crushing it in this day and age where there's all these opportunities around me and most people don't see them. To me, they're low-hanging fruit, but to others, they're non-existent. He goes, man, isn't this great? You're just sitting back and thinking about nothing today. And I go, no, honestly, I think this is the worst use of my time possible. And I'm like, I'm getting nothing accomplished. Life is literally passing us by. And where my buddies would sit there and go, no, this is great. I'm checking out. And I go, yeah, you're checking out. And so is your bank account and your job. I remember my buddies losing almost literally everything in the last cycle because they're all in construction and they're about to now and they want to check out. And I go, man, you look at that, you look at the metaverse and what people put their time into right now. And it's just absolute insanity to me. Sure, sports is great. I played them in high school, but I'm not going to blow my time every week watching sports or watching Netflix. I want to hang out with real people that want to solve real problems and go crush it. Do I want to sit on a white sandy beach? Yes, I do. But I could do that and go help people at the same time. So my thing is understanding what robs you of your time. And that is one angle that honestly, there are very wealthy people out there that have made a lot of money by robbing you of your time and selling you a subscription to Netflix. And I'm not bagging on Netflix, okay? I'm more of a Hallmark Channel guy, quite frankly. But my point being is that I think that people need to wake up and literally wake up. Get out of the slumber, get out of that Ready Player One sort of mentality and realize the plans of the elite are to dull you down, dumb you down, and really get you to just be a good slave.
I think when it comes to, just enjoying life is so important. But when it comes to the metaverse, I mean, that's just checking out. It's almost like, just drinking alcohol to escape the world, right? There's definitely a distinction there.
When you said the checking out, literally people physically say that and they don't realize that there's a problem with that. The checking out, it's like, where have we gone into alcohol is a great example. It's like, I just want to dull the pain. I've literally heard people say that and I say, there's an issue here. Like there's something deeper. Like we don't want to dull the pain. We want to release the pain. We want the pain gone. I'll give you an example. I'm in a 5-month sabbatical from my career right now. I did a video about it. I took a 5-month leave of absence without pay. I saved up for it. Financially, I could do that. But I did it because I need to reset my mind. I need to reset my family. We want to work on things. We want to get better and stronger for the future, not weaker and dumber. And I think that people need to stop dulling pain or checking out, and they need to start dealing with the actual issues.
Like we were mentioning before, I think one of the things I like about your channel is it's not just, complaining about a crisis. It's not just about complaining about what other people are doing. It's about taking responsibility. And this is one way that we can do that. Maybe the World Economic Forum is doing something. Maybe, Facebook is doing something. They're promoting things that we don't like, but we can take responsibility of our own life and our own finances as well. If you could expand on that. So,
and there's a lot to unbox there. And I think it's very important. Let me step back here. I met your family in Florida when we were in Boca Raton, and I was so absolutely impressed. You're listening to your father, getting to watch you and your brother. You guys have something very special, and I think you are one of the rare instances of families in this country that spend time on learning about things that most people don't understand. You yourself, your father, I've watched you not only learn about truth and facts in the things that are going on in this world, but you've taken that and you're sharing it with others and you're making a difference. There are very few people out there doing that. And I've been trying to encourage that in my channel as well, to go and help people. Right now, the problem is most people start with their friends and family. Those are the two groups of people that will completely cut you down or make fun of you, right? Honestly, most of it's because of jealousy. But there's something when we're talking about making ourselves better, not checking out, not dulling the pain. When you go and help others, it is not only help for them, it is therapy for you as well. And I'm living proof of this. And I think it's very important that we continue to strive not only for excellence for us, but for others. And in that, helping other people, we become whole, we become more satisfied with life. And as we do that, if we share truth, knowledge, and love, it's going to come back to us tenfold. And I believe that this movement is going to grow harder, faster, stronger. And I've always said it before, it doesn't take an army to take a city. It only takes a few good men and women. And that's been proven times and times before. Good thinking, hearted people with heart to make something amazing happen. And I literally, going back to the first question, in 2023, that's what's getting me excited because I'm meeting more and more people like yourself that are making a difference and literally starting to really explode in life.
And I think one of the things is that, you don't have to have a YouTube channel. It's interesting, like having a YouTube channel might, like what we're doing might be kind of a little bit effective, but I think the most important thing is really the relationships in your own life is really being an example to people, taking responsibility for your finances, for your life there. I think that's really the most important thing. Anything you do online is kind of secondary. So all the people watching right now, I think really that's the most important thing in 2023 is to really take responsibility in the face of crisis this year.
Let me add to that too. I believe that we are called not to be borrowers, but be lenders. And that's not only a monetary statement, but I think a life statement. We're here to be a solid rock to other people. Well, how do you become a solid rock for other people? Is you need to be a solid rock for yourself and your family first and foremost. So like you said, how you live your life is how others are going to perceive you and be able to learn and glean from you. Not everyone's going to be able to, right? But you're only going to attract the best type of human being around you. So if you're in a bad social circle, look to get out of it, look to upgrade your life, But you have to remember, it starts with you first and foremost. And then when you change you and you become that better version of you and you start to upgrade, you're going to help yourself and other people in the process.
Fantastic. Well, Economic Ninja, we really appreciate your time and insights today. Where can our viewers find you online if they're interested in learning more?
YouTube's the main channel, but if you type in Economic Ninja, you can find it everywhere. I also have a real estate channel called the Real Estate Ninja on YouTube.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for this enlightening conversation, Economic Ninja. We'll talk to you again later, and Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. God bless and Happy New Year.
God bless.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we will let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be double boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Elijah, my brother Kaiser, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.